On today's show, Buccaneers football is back, baby, as the Bucs prepare to take on the Titans Saturday night. And, oh yeah, Teddy Bridgewater's a Buck. Let's go. Well, hello and welcome into this edition of the Bucs Report, part of the Bucs Report podcast network. I'm so glad you decided to join me today. As always, this podcast is free and available on all the major platforms. My name is Dan Holme. You can find me on Twitter. It's at DanCaps218. You can find the show online. It's at bucsreport.com. And the best way that you can help grow this show is to subscribe or follow the Bucs Report on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you find your podcasts. Give it a 5-star rating. I sure would appreciate it. So in this edition of the Bucs Report, Buccaneers football is back, or at least preseason football, as the Buccaneers prepare to take on the Titans Saturday night. And the thing to remember is there's not going to be a whole lot of starters in this game. It is going to be a good opportunity to see some depth within this organization, what it looks like on the big stage, or at least the preseason big stage. We'll talk about that a little bit later. We'll talk about the slot receiver evolution for the Buccaneers. And going into this season, I think the Bucs are in an excellent position. A little bit later after that, we'll talk about ESPN's harsh coaching staff ranking. Then we'll talk about those chippy practice that took place between the Titans and the Buccaneers. But let's just get into the big news surrounding the Buccaneers this past week. And Teddy Bridgewater is a Buccaneer. And what is Teddy Bridgewater doing on the Buccaneers? I think it's easy to say that the Buccaneers, Jason Light, they weren't too comfortable with Kyle Trask being the only option, the number 2 option if Baker Mayfield is injured to start the season. Now, listen, he already had that hand contusion. There was some questions about whether he was going to be able to go to start the season. As it turns out, he's already gotten some action. But some of the things that we know about Baker is that he's a baller. He's a scrambler. And if there's not a player open, he's just going to run the football. So what does that mean? Well, that means that there is a good chance that he could get dinged up again, and nothing will derail the season, the 2025 season, than the starting quarterback, Baker Mayfield, getting injured. Because behind door number 2 is a guy that has little to no experience, a little experience in the NFL, and Kyle Trask. And we don't know what he's going to look like under the big lights during the regular season, and all the hopes, all the drafting, and all the big changes that have surrounded this organization could be for naught if Kyle Trask is given the football. So the Buccaneers did a thing, and they signed Teddy Bridgewater. Why did they do that? Again, because Kyle Trask is an unproven commodity. And to be clear here, we hope it doesn't have to come to that. We hope that the Buccaneers don't have to rely on Teddy Bridgewater. But the fact that he's here is that safety net in the event of emergency break glass, pull out Kyle Trask. That's not going to cut it. Break glass, pull out Teddy Bridgewater. At least in part, there is some relief in knowing a guy that can answer the bell on the big stage. Listen, this isn't going to be the Teddy Bridgewater that we remember back in his heyday playing in Minnesota. And kind of that freak accident, I guess, I'm going to say. He wasn't hit. It was at practice, and all of a sudden his knee got all screwed up and missed a substantial amount of time. Bounced around the NFL, some high leverage situations. Think back with the Detroit Lions, and has some history with Todd Bowles in New York and Miami. The guy's been there. He's done that. And when the you-know-what hits the fan, you want to have some peace of mind. And I think the Buccaneers have that in Teddy Bridgewater. So that's where we're going to start here, is Teddy Bridgewater is finally here. And I mean finally. And what do I mean when I say finally? Is, well, the Buccaneers have been all in on him at different points, but then things changed. Like a decade in the making, we're talking 2014. The Bucs had him in for a top 30 visit before the draft, thinking maybe he's our guy, right? And then boom, the Vikings trade up, grab him, and that's it. No pewter and red, at least back then. And it's interesting how things can come full circle for a player, isn't it? That the Bucs were all in on him back in 2014. And as I'll talk about a little bit later, they were all in on him again, that it seemed like a good fit. That there is that familiarity with Todd Bowles and different members of the coaching staff, that this just felt right. And kind of the perception around the NFL was that he was retired, that he was not going to even play football anymore. As it turns out, all it took was a call from Jason Light, and bingo, bango, here he is. So let's jump forward. I was talking about 2014. Fast forward to 2020, same thing. Bucs are interested. Teddy's thinking it's going to happen. Finally, he is going to be a Buck. And then guess what? The GOAT walks in. No, not that GOAT. Tom Brady walks through the door. You don't say no to the GOAT, right? That's the big thing. And, it's interesting. The further that we get from the Tom Brady era, that there's already some Buccaneers fans going, I didn't really care for that Tom Brady guy too much. Despite the fact that what he did is he brought another Super Bowl back to Tampa, that there are some fans that weren't drinking the Kool-Aid on Tom Brady, that, he was high maintenance and kind of a prima donna. And some of those things might be true, but the proof is in the pudding, as they say, as he took this team to the next level. And I don't think any of us, I'm going to talk about myself here anyway, will ever forget his contributions to this organization. So getting back to 2020, Tom Brady's in the mix. Super Bowl later, we know how that worked out. But things have changed. There was questions in the quarterback room about who is going to be the quarterback for the Buccaneers in the post-Brady era. Could it be Kyle Trask, right? That was the perception out there, was that there was going to be a quarterback battle. I never really bought into it. I just think they wanted vested interest for Kyle Trask. And I think Baker Mayfield, in the back of his mind, being the confident guy, knew, I got this. I know, my track record and what kind of quarterback. I'm better than Kyle Trask. And not to diminish or, say anything poorly about him. He's the guy that shows up early. Todd Bowles said he's one of the first guys at practice, one of the last one to leave at night, constantly puts in the work. And it's not like the Buccaneers don't have faith within him, right? It's like they signed him to a contract to ostensibly be a backup with maybe the belief that maybe, you're going to get some reps in there if there's an injury. So it's got to be a bit, hard for Kyle Trask. Is it's going to be my opportunity? Nope. It's going to be my opportunity? Nope. I think that, it's a bit humbling, a guy that knocked it out of the park in the college ranks, to be, being in the NFL and then just never getting your opportunity. It's got to be very difficult. But I think that he took a look at the lay of the land, that kind of the stink in the air is that I'm a backup quarterback, and what team out there is going to take a flyer on me, that I'm on an established organization where I know the team, I know the coaches, that I could go to another team and not be a starter there either. That I think he's going to bide his time, and if the opportunity presents itself, he's going to strike. The one thing I know is to kind of put himself back on the radar of, the Buccaneers fans, is to really kill it in the preseason. We know that it's going to be Kyle Trask football, at least to start the preseason. They're not going to give the football to start out to Teddy Bridgewater, a guy that's not super familiar with the systems, unless it's, just to get a couple reps in there to kind of bail him out. Say Trask or something gets injured, that I expect it to be I expect it to be Trask football for at least the start. And we already know that Baker's back from that hand contusion, that even if he can get in some reps, before game number 1 of the regular season, maybe the final game of the preseason, I think he's going to be good to go. But, talking about, it being the right place, the right time, here we are in 2025. Dan, quit talking about the past. Teddy rolls up to One Buc Place Tuesday morning, passes the physical, signs a 1-year deal, and spends practice watching from the sideline with Mike Greenberg. And to be clear here, he got the physical. He came here. He knew he was going to sign the deal, barring anything crazy happening on his physical, that he was going to get another kick at the can in the NFL. And all things considered, you take a look at him, it was the right thing to do for him. It was the right thing to do for the Buccaneers. And, the rest is history. So he's on the sideline with Mike Greenberg. And, before you ask, not that Mike Greenberg, the Bucs Mike Greenberg. Now, let's get real here. Like I said, off the top, Teddy's 32 years old right now. He's not coming to Tampa to be the long-term answer at the QB position. He is the guy that's going to step in if Baker gets injured. A tip of the hat goes to Jason Light for having the foresight to take a look at the QB room and going, I like Kyle Trask. I like his game, but he's still an unproven commodity in the National Football League. So that's why he did the right thing. But the big thing about Teddy is he brings experience. That's the big thing. Kyle Trask, 0 NFL starts. Michael Pratt, back injury all season. Baker's the guy, but Teddy, he's the safety net. That is why he's here. And like I said, I hate to say it. I hope it doesn't have to come to that. I hope it doesn't have to come to the point where they have to reach in the cupboard and dig him out. But it does bring some peace of mind. Todd Bowles said it himself, quote, "We think we need some experience in that room. The more experience, the better." Unquote. And he's right. The team can't afford to go into the season with nothing proven behind Baker. This team has won the NFC South and they are on the verge. I know I'm saying this. It's a really early take in August. I think they're on the verge of winning the NFC South yet again, that we don't want all of that derailed with Baker going out. It just would not be the right idea. And, there's the drama that surrounds Teddy, right? The suspension from coaching high school football in Miami for giving his players Uber rides, meals, recovery services, all of that out of his own pocket. And if that's the worst you can say about someone, if that's the worst that you can say about Teddy Bridgewater, is he opened up his pocket to help these guys with Uber rides, meals, and recovery services, then that's pretty good. If you take a look at the checkered history of a lot of different guys in the NFL, I think that speaks volumes of his character, something he wouldn't have to do. So like I say, for Teddy, if that's the worst that they can claim, that you've done, then I think you could do far worse. But listening to him, you get why he did it. Protecting kids in rough neighborhoods, that's leadership. That's the kind of locker room presence you want. That is why the Buccaneers went out inside Teddy Bridgewater. And, again, the players kind of swarmed around him like a moth to the flame. You saw Mike Evans, you saw Lavonte David, that there's that familiarity factor, that they know that this guy has a lot of miles on his NFL odometer, a bit of a journeyman, not real consistent with one organization, but still the track record to at least be able to land jobs on a consistent basis around the NFL speaks volumes. Like I said, Lavonte David, who I expect this to be his last season in the NFL, has been friends with him since high school. Josh Grizzard coached him in Miami. Charlie Strong was hired his head coach at Louisville. It's like half the staff has this Teddy history. So I think that this could work out nicely. And if it's not, him getting in a lot of NFL reps, what it's about is being a leader, maybe a mentor a bit to a guy like Kyle Trask, that he has the history. He's got the character. I think that Teddy Bridgewater checks off a lot of boxes for a backup QB, if you can believe it. All right, so coming up here after the break, we're going to talk about the slot receiver evolution for the Bucs. I'll discuss straight ahead. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at SeatGeek. Are you heading to a Bucs game this season, or maybe the Rays, Lightning, even heck, a concert in Tampa Bay? Make your life easier with SeatGeek, the only ticket app that rates every deal so you know you're getting the best bang for your buck. And right now, SeatGeek is giving the Bucs Report listeners $20 off your first ticket purchase over $50. So you know you're going to end up seeing a Bucs game. Well, you might not be seeing the Rays, but there are some good concerts that come through Tampa, and I got your hookup. $20 off your first ticket purchase over $50. In this economy, $20 off goes a long way. So just download the SeatGeek app or visit the link in the show notes. Use promo code MINUTECAST. That's promo code MINUTECAST for $20 off. MINUTECAST and SeatGeek, your seat starts here. All right, welcome back into this edition of the Bucs Report, part of the Bucs Report Podcast Network. I'm so glad you decided to join me today. As always, the best way that you can help grow this show is to subscribe or follow the Bucs Report on YouTube. Subscribe, leave some comments, help blow up the show. Let's get this show over 1,000 subs. And I have you guys to thank for everything so far. So thanks for sticking with me so far on your go-to source for Buccaneers news, the Bucs Report. So let's dive into segment number 2 here as we're talking about the evolution of the slot position for the Buccaneers. So let's talk about the slot because, man, the Bucs might have the best slot trio in the league right now. I'm talking Godwin, McMillan, and Egbuka. I mean, come on. And, you want to take a look at Godwin. We know he's dinged up right now, but at some point he's going to come back. And the thing of it is slot receivers used to be an afterthought. Now they're basically the Swiss Army knife of the offense. Short area quickness, blocking in the run game, finding holes in zone coverage. It's mental chess every play. These guys are playing chess while the rest of us are playing checkers. And if you take a look at McMillan, a guy whose career has grown by leaps and bounds. And if, he hasn't been around that long. So to say that is quite a thing, right? But when, Jalen McMillan came on the scene, I guess, my thoughts on him were a bit limited. How good is this guy going to be, really? Well, if you look back to last season, Jalen McMillan, huge. And then the Bucs did what else? They drafted Emeka Egbuka, right? A wide receiver. And, there was a lot of talk around the Buccaneers. Why did they end up doing that? That, they should have drafted a different position. But I think the Buccaneers have their eyes set on the future. We know that Evans, we know that Godwin aren't going to be around forever. And, Evans has said as much. He doesn't know how long he's going to be playing. That you have a guy like Egbuka in the mix, a guy that Baker Mayfield trusts already without having a single NFL regular season game on his resume. That speaks volumes. And Bucs wide receiver coach Brian McClendon laid it out perfectly. Sometimes you're inside release, sometimes outside, sometimes you sit in a zone, and sometimes you burn a man deep. And the kicker, you have to read all of that before the ball's even snapped. And that's what makes that position unique. And that is what the Buccaneers have in spades. You take a look around the NFL, they would love to have a guy like Godwin, McMillan, or Egbuka. The Buccaneers have that. And that's why I think this team is absolutely loaded for bear next season. Godwin's proven, right? Dinged up, but will be back at some point. McMillan, like I said, is on the rise. And Egbuka, rookie, but route running technician. This is a group that can keep defenses guessing all season long. The predictability factor, right? That oftentimes when there's more footage out there of the team that, my team or that team is prone to doing this, that, or the other thing, it gets to be predictable, right? That I think the Buccaneers, like I said, the slot position, receiver position there, it is like a Swiss Army knife, and it's what's going to keep the opponent guessing all season long. And I know Godwin's coming off that ankle injury, but before he went down, he was leading the NFL in receptions and third down conversions. Underline, bold font, highlighter, Godwin is the man. And Mayfield trusted him like no one else. That's why Godwin is, a key ingredient to this team, big time. And McMillan, 5 straight games with a TD last year as a rookie. That's rare company. That's what made him pop off the page for me. We're talking Randy Moss kind of stuff there. And that is what the, kind of skill set that the Bucs have. Egbuka, he's already impressing coaches with how fast he's picking up the playbook. There's a reason they drafted this guy so high. If you're a defensive coordinator trying to plan this, good luck. Again, a really early take here, but I think the Buccaneers are going to absolutely knock it out of the park. If you're not drinking the creamsicle Kool-Aid on this team right now, I don't know when you will be. All right, so coming up here after the break, this team can get no love. You're talking about winning the NFC South year after year after year, but ESPN's harsh coaching staff ranking, it doesn't ever get any better, does it? I'll discuss straight ahead. Today's episode of the Buccaneers Minutecast and the Bucs Report is also brought to you by Righteous Felon Beef Jerky. If you're on the hunt for a delicious high-protein snack, look no further than Righteous Felon. This family-owned brand is all about premium pasture-raised Black Angus beef, hormone and antibiotic-free with mouth-watering flavors like OG hickory and 10 grams of protein per serving. You'll get the boost you need for all of your adventures. Plus, they have keto-friendly and gluten-free options, and they support sustainability with Conservation Alliance. Are you ready to snack smarter? Use promo code MINUTECAST for 15% off your order. That's promo code MINUTECAST for 15% off your order. Head over to righteousfelon.com or follow the link in the show description and grab your new favorite snack today. All right, welcome back into this edition of the Bucs Report. Again, subscribe, follow wherever you find your podcast, 5-star rating, leave some comments, and tell your friends. Let's blow up the Bucs Report. So let's dive into the next segment. And we're talking about how this team gets no love. That despite, again, multiple back-to-back-to-back NFC South championships, this team gets no love. You take a look at it, the Bucs, before Brady was here, the thought was they got lucky right before, but then Brady came here and guess what? They won another Super Bowl and they're like, yeah, you got lucky because you had Brady. But guess what happened? Todd Bowles, a guy that's constantly under the gun, constantly ridiculed for not being the guy, for poor, clock management and a myriad of other things. Well, say what you want about Todd Bowles, the proof's in the pudding, right? He continues to get winning products out on the field year after year after year. So let's dive into that in the next segment, talking about ESPN, the latest to cast shade on your favorite team and mine. And ESPN just ranked the Bucs coaching staff 26th in the NFL. Yeah, 26th. Writer Ben Solak says if Liam Cohen had stayed on as OC, they'd be closer to 12th or 13th, but he's gone. Enter Josh Grizzard. Unproven, sure, but he's got that whiz kid label, and he's already helped make the Bucs league's best third down offense last year. So Liam Cohen, right? If he'd be here, the Buccaneers would be 12th or 13th instead of 26th. Again, I am over Liam Cohen, but if you want to speak volumes about the offensive coordinator position, the last 2 offensive coordinators are what? Head coaches in the NFL. And despite all of that, they still get no love. Now, Solak didn't hold back on Todd Bowles either, a guy that, I've been tough on. If you listen to the Bucs Minutecast, I've been tough on him as well, called him a cautious game manager, where there were chances where if they would have, 1 more yard, first down, nope, I'm going to punt the ball. Okay, so maybe there's some things that he needs to work on. Who settles for field goals when they should go for touchdowns? And we've all seen that, right? And the poor clock management, all of those kind of things. He's guilty as charged. And I think if you flip over the other side of the coin, some people would say maybe the Buccaneers are that good under Todd Bowles. Maybe they would have been even better had they had a better head coach, right? I guess we'll never know. We can't live in the land of woulda, shoulda, coulda, didn't, couldn't. So defensively, I mean, let's be clear here. 2024 was rough. First time since 2019, the Bucs gave up more than 2 points per drive. Worst pass defense efficiency of Bowles' career. That's not what you want to hear heading into a season with playoff expectations. To be clear here, the Buccaneers have won the NFC South many years in a row here, right? I think that, it's little things. Say the Bucs get off to a slow start. Say the Buccaneers take a step back and they don't win the NFC South. This is a league of what have you done for me lately? Head coaches get hired to get fired. That, who knows what the future holds for Todd Bowles, but I don't want to sell him short. I don't want to do what the rest of the NFL is doing, saying that, this coaching staff isn't good enough. Let's give the guy a break. But here's where I think the national media misses it. There's talent here. If Grizzard's offense clicks and Bowles makes even a small shift in his game calls, this ranking's going to age like a carton of milk. Let's prove them wrong. I think that ultimately the Buccaneers play that much better as the underdog. And again, I'm so ready for Buccaneers football to start tomorrow. Again, I know it's the preseason, but we're going to get a glimpse. We're going to get a glimmer, if you will, a peek-see at this young talent on this team and see how it all gels. To say that, the preseason doesn't mean anything, I think totally misses the mark. You get a chance to take a look at the depth on your organization. All right, so coming up here after the break, things got chippy, to use an NHL term, at the last practice or the drills, the joint practice with the Titans. You had Baker Mayfield out on the field. You had Tristan Wirfs on the field. So much craziness. I'll break it all down next. All right, welcome back into this edition of the Bucs Report, part of the Bucs Report podcast network. So in the final segment of the show, things got crazy at the practice, the drills, the joint practice, the games that aren't games but still have all the feels. The joint practice fireworks with the Titans was fierce. And Thursday's practice with the Titans was what I'm going to say spicy. Two big fights, one between Cody Mao and Jeffrey Simmons after Mao put the All-Pro on his backside in a one-on-one drill. And that's not too easy. Cody Mao, mad respect goes out to that guy, that you don't want to make that guy mad. For him to just be able to flip that guy over is something. And then a bench-clearing brawl after Bucky Irving got thrown to the ground. Baker Mayfield's coming out, and always the guardian of Baker Mayfield, Tristan Wirfs, is coming out there, with his cane and crutches, going out there trying to do, I don't know what he was trying to do out there, but it is, it's moments like that I think galvanize this team. When you can be team tough, when someone tries to go after Bucky, and they do go after Bucky, that it gets a response from the entire team, including the man himself, Baker Mayfield, who, let's be clear, should not be out there either. That speaks volumes of what this team is made of. Baker Mayfield, right in the middle of it, in true Baker fashion, quote, "We're not going to start it, but we'll finish it right here. Let's get pumped." Are you pumped for the Bucs season already? And Baker Mayfield is the guy that's stirring the drink. So much to like. So other than the drama, more than just the fighting, on the football side, the Bucs defense ate. Rookie QB Cameron Ward had no answers. Hassan Reddick dropped into coverage, picked him off right after the fight. J.J. Roberts, undrafted safety, made the play of the day with a leaping interception. Kalijah Cansey, unblockable. Logan Hall showing power. The D-line looked ready for week one. Offense, a big picture, not their best. Drops from Egbuka and Dennis Houston. Mayfield a little off, but hey, Mike Evans still doing Mike Evans things with a red zone fade TD. Mike Evans doing great things. Saturday night preseason opener against the Titans at Ray J. Starters probably won't see much action, but for these young guys, huge opportunity again. So excited for the start of this season to prove the haters, the skeptics, the one that said the Buccaneers aren't that great, that they get lucky every year. How can you get lucky every year? I think you can book it already right now. The Buccaneers are going to walk away as the NFC South champs yet again. Let's go. All right. Once again, I want to thank you for joining me on this edition of the Bucs Report, part of the Bucs Report Podcast Network. And I'll talk to you again next time.